Hi guys, it's Kelly and I am here celebrating the Daily Markers 30-day coloring challenge, and I am going to be using this new set from W+9. It's called Color My World, and a little birdie told me that Kathy has 12 of them that she's giving away. So the whole purpose of this is to embrace your coloring, and that's what we're going to do today. I just cut a mask that's the same size as my card front. It's an A2 size card, which is 4¼ by 5½, and then I cut a square out of the center. Going to do some masking. There's really cute little tube paints in this set, and so I decided to do a background with those. I previously cut some masks, so I'm just stamping out the ones that are going to be on top, totally random, and then I will mask those off. And there is another tube paint in there that's kind of like scrunched up, used, and they're super cute, and I think they make an adorable little background. So I'm going to put those masks in place. I use just copy paper and Tombow Mono Multi Glue. Once it dries, it's repositionable, and that's how I do my masks. It works for me, and I'm just going to continually move my masks and stamp these until the whole background is covered. Especially when you're doing any kind of masking, you want to make sure you get to the edges so you maintain that shape. I prefer to frame things in, so I'm just going to use a journaling pen and a T-square ruler to go ahead and just draw some little lines and frame it in. Don't mind my big head there. I needed to see where I was drawing. And just for a little bit more fun, I went about 1/4 of an inch out past the square so that it had like a little crosshatch border. I'm going to Copic color these. That's my preferred medium in coloring, but you can color with whatever you want to participate in the challenge. It doesn't even have to be a full card. It can just be whatever you happen to be working on that day. The goal is to just color for a few minutes every day, which scientists have shown that it reduces stress. So you should color. It's fun. It takes your mind off things. I'm just using some cool gray markers here. Most tube paints that I have seen they're white. So when you're coloring white, you're just adding in the shadows. And that's all I'm really doing here, is where the tubes would be bent or kind of scrunched up. There would be some darker shadows. So I work lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest. That's the, I guess, the blend that works best for me. And I'm just adding the darker shadows where Dawn has already drawn those to be. Whatever guide she's giving me, I'm just embracing those. I'm not trying to come up with my own. And I will be completely honest, when I had first started coloring this background, my intention was to do the paints white and then add colors to the labels. But as I got started here, I realized that I really I loved the way it looked with just the gray. It looked almost kind of like a pencil sketch, like back in the old days of art school. So I ended up leaving the background exactly that way, just as a simple black and white background. There's a sentiment in this set that says, a world without you is like a world without color, and I thought that that would be totally adorable. It just didn't go with the layout that I had, so I ended up using a different sentiment, but that totally would have been so cute with like a black and white background, or maybe doing like some color highlighting, like a pop of color. So since I did not go back in and add the color, when I first started doing this, I wasn't really adding any shadows to the labels of the straight tubes. So I ended up having to go back in and add those, and I'm just adding a little bit of C1 to the left and right sides of those. And I know that, it's a blog hop, so there's a lot to look at, so I tried not to hold you up for too long here. I did want to have some color in my card, so I am going to stamp out the 2 paintbrushes that are in the set, and then also the painter's palette, and that's going to be where my color comes from in this card. Coloring, even though it's black and white, it's still coloring, so it totally still counts in the challenge. Here, I wanted them to look like silver, the parts of the paintbrush that would be metal. So I'm using those same sea colors. You could do them gold, or you could do them black. You could do them whatever you wanted, whatever makes you happy. As long as you're coloring, you're in the challenge. And there's some really cool prizes that she's going to be giving away in addition to this set. So make sure you get through all the way to the end of the hop. I picked out some warmer browns to do my paint brushes, like the actual bristles of the paintbrush, and then also to do the wood grain on my palette. And again, you could color these whatever you wanted. I just did a couple of quick strokes with each brown color and called it a day. They're really tiny images, so I didn't really feel like I needed to add a lot of detail. I kept most of my detail in the palette because I wanted to do a wood grain. So I'm just using my lightest color and I'm coating everything one time, careful to go around the little paint blobs, splats, what do you call them? The little pieces of paint. And then from here, I'm just going to start drawing in some lines with my second lightest color. And wood grains naturally have a spiral in them, you know, when they're cut, and the lines aren't perfectly straight, so I'm not being very careful about how I'm drawing my lines. I'm intentionally making some of them more wavy or less. I'm also going around those wood spirals. And this, you know, you could go as dark or as light as you want with this. I wanted a little bit of a darker look to it, but you certainly could, you know, stop at any point. Obviously, there's all different variations of woods and whether or not they're stained or raw or whatever. I took mine all the way up to an E59, but I didn't add the E59 everywhere. I only added little bits and pieces of it. And again, at any point, wherever you're comfortable or happy with how it looks, then you can stop. I wanted mine to be a little bit more blended, so I took my lightest color and, well, I went back to the E55. Sorry, I did go back to the E55 and just did random strokes. And then I took the E53 and did color over the entire thing so they would all blend together pretty nicely. And I'm going to cut these out. I'm going to fussy cut them out at the end, so I'm not being real careful about staying in the lines. It doesn't really matter to me. Dawn has drawn in some little lines or divots into the palette, and I kind of wanted to accentuate those. So I'm going back in, starting with the E55 and just adding a little bit of shading. And this is just to give it some variation, some depth, since this is going to be my focal point. You know, the tubes, even though they are totally adorable, they are the background. So this is going to be what my focal point is, and I'm carrying out, you know, those same browns that I had picked out before, and then blending everything out the same way that I would normally. So from the E53 to the 55, 57, 59, and then backwards from 59 to 57, 55, 53. And I didn't do the 53 all over the whole palette again. I only went out as far as I needed to blend it. I'm doing really simple 2-color blends for the paint portion. They're small areas, so there wasn't really any reason to add too much detail. I just picked a light and a dark, and I outlined them with the dark and then filled it back in with the light. And I'm for the paint brush, the base, I wanted them to have some color too. A lot of, you know, paintbrushes, they come in different colors, reds, blues, what have yous. A lot of the ones I own are black, but that's pretty boring since I had a black and white background, so I opted not to do that and decided I would bring in some color. And again, Dawn has drawn some lines in there, and that's where I'm putting my shading. I'm just going with what's already on the already in the image, the way it was illustrated. And then I was trying to pick, I guess, just pretty traditional colors for my paint palette. I didn't get too crazy with it, but you could make them, you know, whatever colors you wanted. I just went with something that was a little bit more traditional with the primaries, and then just a green and an orange. And then after I had colored these, I realized they just looked a little flat, which is fine, but I wanted them to be have a little bit more depth. So since the top left-hand side is the one that has all my shading, I decided I was going to add a little bit of that brown to the top left of the paints as well. And I know it looks kind of weird when I first start putting it down, and you're probably thinking, like, why is that necessary? And it's really not necessary. It's just sometimes I can't stop myself. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're just doing a card and you can't stop yourself. So that shadow just gives them a little bit more depth. I fussy cut them out, and then I ran around, I took a Memento Tuxedo black marker and ran around the edges so that it would have a finished edge. For my sentiment, I wanted to do just some white heat embossing on black, and I just absolutely adore the sentiment. It says "Make pretty things." I think it's completely adorable, so totally cute. So I'm going to pop this up on some Sketch foam adhesive, and I'm just like messing around with my placement. This is pretty forgiving if you don't press it down. So you can kind of set it down and see where it's going to be. I decided to move mine down a little bit lower. And then for the paint brushes, I just put the foam adhesive on the top. I put the Tabomana multi-glue on the bottom, so that way everything would be level. So I'll glue it flat to the palette, and it will still be level because of the foam tape that's on the paintbrush. So I'm just going to go ahead and adhere those down. And again, I added my sentiment the same way. And then I'm just going to hit it with a little bit of glossy accents for the shiny metal parts as well as the paint. So thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that you, if you're watching on YouTube, head over to the blog and you can see all these beautiful, wonderful cards that all feature coloring. And then, of course, participate in Kathy's 30-day coloring challenge. It's super fun, and I'm so grateful that she did it and that she allowed me to be a part of it. So thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys on the next one.